Good evening and welcome to Keeping It Real TV Network, the Keeping It Real in all aspects of life and giving back in more ways than one. I am First Lady J, and we are so excited that you are here with us this evening. This evening's topic is entitled The Reality We Avoid, and it is so true. It is so true. As you come on in, let us know where you are watching from. Give us thumbs up, smash on the like button, the heart button, all of that type of jazz. Make sure to comment. Hello, Kuniva. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are just so thankful and grateful that you are here. It's a tough topic tonight, but it is something that we definitely need to discuss. And so we are just thrilled that you are here with us. Please be sure to share this evening. And I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little raspy, just got a little tickle going on here, so bear with me this evening. But for those of you who are new and have not been on this platform at all before, what have you, our mandate is to keep it real in all aspects of life and give back in more ways than one. And our vision is we want to see you and your family and your children elevate and grow and manifest greatness. And we are here to help you where we can and to direct you to the right places that can definitely help you. So this evening, though, we have, without any further ado, I want to definitely introduce our guest. I'm excited that she's here with us this evening, Michelle Loraine. Michelle Loraine, thank you so much for being here this evening. She is a licensed funeral director and deals with like final arrangements and planning, and I think she's got some really good tips on grief and stuff like that, but I know that she does a lot more than just this. So I'm going to let her continue and letting us know what she does. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lady J, for having me on your program. This is exciting.
Thank you for being here. Yes. What other things do you do other than funeral directing and stuff? Because I know you've got to do a couple of other things.
Well, for majority of my life, I've been an event planner. So wedding planner, corporate events, it doesn't matter. Events is what I love to do. I also started to do my own brand, Michelle Loraine, and basically it's just a lifestyle type of focus. So at one point I was just thinking to myself, there's something more to who I am other than an event planner or even working in the funeral and cemetery industry. So I decided to work on a brand of who I am. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, the reality we avoid. Okay. So, where does one start? Like, where does one start? And just even planning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not an easy topic to, number one, you don't want to think about it yourself. And number two, it's hard to speak with like your family about this type of stuff, say your do's and your don'ts, all of that. So how do you go about this? Where should you start?
Okay, so it's it's a topic that I have to speak about pretty much every single day with different families, whether they have someone who is not well and are transitioning, or it's people who just want to be prepared so that their children or their spouses or relatives or friends don't have to worry about putting arrangements together. But if we step back a little bit, one of the things that we should really talk about is when people are going through changes.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that we wait until someone becomes sick and then have the conversation about making final arrangements. I realize that, let's say, for example, my dad, he's not well. He has dementia and Parkinson. And it took us a long time to deal with it emotionally about his changes that he's going through. Okay. And that is the first experience of loss. When you have someone you love and they're no longer that same person anymore. And we try not to have that conversation because we end up being in denial. Okay. So we're saying, no, this isn't happening. No, he's going to get better, or things are going to change, or whatever the case may be. But the reality is that, and we'll use scriptures, it is appointed unto man once to die. We all are going to go through that transition. How we get from here to there is only by the will of God, or by God's will. He will decide on how we are going to transition from this life to that. So when I look at pre-planning, it's about a part of our journey in life. We plan for birthdays, we plan for weddings, baby showers, bridal showers, graduation, so many things we celebrate, and we plan for that. For me, doing your final arrangements is the last big hoorah for your loved one. It encompasses everything from the beginning of your life to that point. So to me, if we take so much time to celebrate the birth of a child or celebrate accomplishments, this pre-planning is the celebration of all that they've accomplished in one day, right?
Yeah, no,
Does that make sense? Do you
no,
see?
it does.
Mm-hmm.
Makes total sense. And I guess that's where, like the whole thing of celebration of life, versus it being referred to as a funeral, if you will. It's a celebration of, because it encompasses, and not everybody will word it that way, as a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
I know that when I pass, I definitely want a celebration. I want a full blown party.
Yeah.
Because why shouldn't it be celebrated that,
Yeah.
you've made it through, you've gone, now above and beyond, and you've reached, your next step, and which is exciting. It's just another
Mm-hmm.
door that we've walked through, and we all have to walk through it. I've heard the saying before, and I don't know if others have, but it's where I think it goes something along the lines of, when you were born literally into a lineup. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're in that line, until it's your turn to pass. And we all, like you said, we all have to be a part of this, whether we like it or not. It's just the fact of being prepared for it. And it's something that we don't like to talk about. And something that it's awkward. It's, odd.
Yeah.
It's just,
Uh-huh.
but it's definitely a must. And so how does one go about planning for that? Is there, is there package deals? What is the difference between burial and being cremated?
Okay. Yeah. So definitely, the first thing a person needs to do is acknowledge that a plan needs to be put in place. In most cases, it's the parents who are putting their thoughts together, just like as they're doing their will, insurance, you got to do your final arrangements as well. So you'd look for a company, let's say a cemetery or a funeral home. You're going to contact them, and you work with somebody like myself. I'm a licensed funeral and cemetery director, pre-planning director. So they'd call me up and I'd set an appointment with them and go through the different steps of funeral arrangements and cemetery arrangements, because they are two different entities. Funeral deals with all the services, which is when a person passes away, for example, they're going to ask, what funeral home are you using? The funeral home is the organization that will go to the person's home or the hospital or the senior's home, wherever the person passes away. That's where the funeral home will go and receive the person and bring them back to the funeral home, and they will rest there until the service takes place and the burial. The funeral home also covers the casket. So it's a hard conversation to have, or a lot of people are very hesitant to seeing the casket, and that's okay. It's quite normal that people get a little hesitant to see the casket, and we take our time with the families. If they don't want to see it, we take your time to choose that. You have the option of metal or wood, but the metal is not conducive for cremation services or cremation um, services. Yeah. But you have those different things. So you've got the funeral service, and then some people, let's say Christians, they would like to have a service at the church or at the chapel, right? So it depends on religious backgrounds or cultures. We definitely accommodate for everything. And then you got the cemetery. And again, you mentioned about cremation versus burial. So cremation is pretty much when a person ashes to ashes, dust to dust type of
Yep.
thing. They are burned, okay? So if you're comfortable with that, then that's cremation. And you usually be put into an urn. Some people like to have their ashes scattered. It just depends on, again, culturally or religiously, people will decide. And then a traditional burial is a full body burial, and usually that goes into the ground. We also have mausoleums, which is one of my favorite places, is the mausoleum, where you go into a wall in a beautiful building. um, for me, I'll share with you, Linda J, um, is that I told my girls I'd like to be in a mausoleum because I was born in winter and I want them to visit me in the winter. And if it's snowing outside, they have no excuse. If
No.
it's raining, no excuse because I'll be inside a building, right? So I try to make sure they know what my wishes are, right? So you have that type of traditional burial or entombment. And then you have cremation where you could go into a niche. Cremation could still go into a ground. You can have a bench. You can have a pedestal. There are so many choices that you want to make sure that your family knows exactly what it is that you want so that they don't have to be feeling around trying to figure out, well, does she like a wood casket or a metal casket? Does she like dark brown, light brown? Like,
Yeah.
does she like a blue casket, a white casket? Like, there's so many choices. It's like buying a house and furnishing it the way you want to, or having a party and having it done just exactly the way you prefer it to be done. So,
Oh,
a lot of choices.
a lot
A
of
lot of
choices.
choices.
Now, price
Mm-hmm.
range wise, what like
Mm.
how does that work? Or what does it even look like?
Okay. So with price ranges, it would really vary from family to family depending on what they pick. Okay. So I find traditionally, if there's a couple, they will pick, let's say, a double depth. And that's basically having one person buried on top of another, right? The wife will say to me, yeah, he'll be going first. So he'll be down at the bottom and I'll be on top, right? And so, I have those couples who say that. And then some say, hey, we walk down the aisle together. We're going to be buried side by side. So you can have two side by side. So it all depends on what you're looking at. So if you're doing like a couple, you're looking, I would say, you can have a package on an average of 25,000 and up for, let's say, cemetery. Again, depending on the type of package. You have the upright monument, which stands up. I say it's like looking at a screen TV with your information on it, or you can have the flat bronze. And the flat bronze, you look down at it on the ground, so it's flush to the ground. So you have those options as traditional burial, and of course the mausoleum. The mausoleum is quite expensive. It is one of the more expensive options. But again, if you pre-plan ahead, you can do that on a payment package. And then you have the funeral arrangements, and that's based off of each person individually. Okay, so it depends. If you're doing traditional funeral service, that's like 2 days. Some people do like a viewing the Friday night and then come back Saturday morning and do another viewing, and then they do the service and then the interment. So it all depends on your package, but that can average, let's say, including the casket and certificate registration, and some people like to add their flowers to it or reception. So again, it's hard to say, Lady J, but let's say average, let's say maybe about 12, 15,000, for one person. And then you have to do the same thing for your spouse, right? Because
Mm,
that is based off you as an individual, based off of your age when it comes to the payment plan. And so it's really hard. We customize it per family, per person.
per person. Well,
Yeah.
that's really good, and it's good to know that it can be
Hmm.
customized.
Yeah.
What happens though, like once you've picked a package deal and you are now, I'm assuming you can make payments, or like, I don't know
Yeah.
how the it works 100%, but you're making your payments, and then, life is going by, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to switch cities now. And I've moved
Mm-hmm.
cities now. How does that work? Do you have to like switch everything over? Does it start from scratch? Are you allowed to still keep the same place even though you're in a different city or province? Um,
Okay.
how does
Yeah.
that work?
So I believe that I work for a great company called Arbor Memorial, and they've been around since I believe 1947.
Okay.
And we have locations right across Canada. It's Canadian owned, okay? And we have over 40 cemeteries across Canada and over 90 funeral homes. So if, for example, I made my pre-arrangements here in Canada and I'm still paying for it, and I decided to move to the wonderful province, to Ottawa, let's say, I decide to move to Ottawa, and I can have my space, my purchase transferred to one of our locations in Ottawa.
Okay.
Okay, if I decide to go to Alberta, same thing. So anywhere across Canada, we can transfer our lot to anywhere across Canada.
Wow.
And the funeral arrangements is pretty much the same thing. If you decide to get buried in California, or sorry, you passed away in California and you made funeral arrangements here, if you your our funeral arrangements is covered anywhere in the world.
That's amazing.
So for funeral service, it's anywhere in the world.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
That is really amazing. And with that being said, on our flyer regarding this evening's topic and show, Michelle Loraine's QR code is on there. You scan that, that will take you straight to her IG page, and you can actually message her with any questions. I believe she does quotes and everything like that on there. Michelle Loraine is a sweetheart, so she will definitely answer everything, every single question you have, and she'll do her best at it, I know. Um, but now my question is, how do we deal with grief? What are some things that could, the person has now passed, we've spoken with them, we know what they want, we're doing the best that
Hmm.
we can.
Right.
How do we deal with grief or help those around us that are going through it?
Okay, so first, let me put my disclaimer out there. I am not a grief counselor. Okay, by any means. However, I have experienced grief, and I do speak with a lot of people regarding it. And I did do a course when I was in college with just your basic psychology. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I put that out there.
Yeah,
So with grief, there is a process of grief. There is um, the first step I learned is denial. We want to say this is not happening. We try to block it out of our minds that this is not possible. Then there's the step of being angry and blame.
yeah,
The doctor didn't do what they're supposed to do, or, they didn't get there fast enough, or, there's that anger that comes with it. Okay. And then eventually we come to acceptance, accepting the fact that, yes, my loved one has left. My loved one is no longer here, and now I'm going to have to take this journey by myself. Or if you have resources, family and friends that are a part of your life that can help you through the process, um, then that's great. We all need a network of people to shower us with love and support
yes,
when we have lost a loved one, and that is so important. Community is so important. As human, we are inclined to touch. We're inclined to hearing, like hearing somebody's voice, and emotions. Like it's just an emotional place that we're in, that we really need to have that support. So there's the denial, there's the anger, there's the blame, there's the acceptance, and then there's the moving on. And that part is the hard part, because some people feel that Am I grieving too long? There's no there's no deadline to grief. Some people will grieve for years. Some people may get over it sooner. And then maybe something pops up because we have a lot of history with the person that we've loved.
Yeah.
Even if it was a baby, you've loved that child for a certain time. A song can trigger an emotion.
Yes. Yes.
Driving down a certain street can trigger an emotion. There are so many things that impact us, and we just basically have to know that we're going to make it. We're going to survive. We're going to get through this. We have to embrace our feelings. Don't try to cover it. Don't try to bury it. It's your feeling, and you're entitled to feel your hurt. You're entitled to feel your sadness. You're entitled to that. I believe that once you recognize those feelings, then it helps you to go on to next steps. Now you can be encouraged to make new memories. It will encourage you to create something new while bringing in. So, for example, I've encouraged a family, they had lost a son, and I had encouraged them to basically, he used to do sports, maybe support youth in sports. You just find things that help you deal with your loss. And then this way you can also encourage someone else along the way,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
mhm,
That is so good. That's definitely good. Yeah, for sure. And like really, with experiencing loss myself, um,
mhm,
I I really encourage people to take their time.
yeah,
It is not something that should be rushed.
mhm,
And don't allow anybody to put a time limit on it for you. It's been three
absolutely not.
months, it's been 3 weeks, it's been, whatever length of time. Every person, should take the time that's needed. And I think therapy is a really good thing to do. To be
Yep,
honest with you, I know I've done it, and I know that's one thing they teach us in therapy is, take as long as you need. And as crazy as it may sound, if you are out somewhere and something triggers like a song or something that you see and you just feel like crying, it's okay. Cry, take that time,
yeah,
cry. You might feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm in public, I don't want, but take that time. Let it out. The worst thing you can do is bottle up emotions. And every emotion is, you don't want to bottle those up. You want to let those out,
let them
um,
out. Yeah,
deal with it. And it's okay to take time for you. This is definitely a topic that's not, I don't know about anybody else, but it's not taught in, churches, is not taught in workplaces on how to deal with people that have gone
mhm,
through grief, or what the signs are.
yeah,
Some people think like somebody's acting really, odd, or they're always weeping. It doesn't matter what's being said. They're always crying.
yeah,
They could be dealing with grief. They could be dealing with
yeah,
things, and so I personally wish it was something that was more talked about, so people like
yeah,
knew the signs and knew what to look for.
100%.
Yeah, but how important do you think counseling is?
Oh, it is so important. So while you're talking, and I'll come back to the counseling thing,
Okay.
question. I had lost a baby. I had a miscarriage between my two daughters, and I remember someone came to visit me, and I was very sad, and she said to me, she goes, "Why are you crying? You were just working too much, and maybe if you had taken some time and didn't do as much as you're doing, maybe you would have not had lost the baby."
Mm,
And I'm telling you, that thing hurt
mm.
so bad. Like, I feel like I could cry right now,
Oh gosh.
but it hurt so bad that she would say something like that. Like, would I want to lose my child?
Oh.
And for years, I never talked about that feeling. I didn't talk about being sad about losing the baby. But when somebody would talk to me about it, I'd cry.
Hmm.
Like, I would cry, and I
Hmm.
knew that I was still grieving. My niece-in-law spoke to me one day, And she asked me, "Did you cry? Did you have your full emotions about losing your baby?" And I'm telling you, I think that was the first time that I really, as the Jamaicans say, bawled. Like I just, no snot, everything,
Oh,
tears,
yeah.
everything just came out. And I think that was the first time that I actually really grieved from losing my child, my baby. And it was because she made me feel guilty. She made me feel like I was to blame. And so I had locked in all that emotion and never spoke about it until years later that I finally came out
Wow.
and had been able to let some of that emotion go. And it doesn't mean that because you feel like you've overcome, it doesn't mean that you've forgotten the loved one. It doesn't mean any of that.
No,
It's still there. You remember them. You remember
absolutely.
uh, child you loved or the husband or the, whoever it is, you remember. You'll never forget.
No.
Um, and then your question was that you said, what was your question again?
How important?
What did
But
you-
first of all, thank you for
Oh,
sharing that. Thank you
therapy.
so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
But about therapy, how important do you feel? Um, like I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I can handle it. I can handle it," because you feel like you can at that moment. But
Hmm.
even when you feel that you can handle
Yeah.
it, how important? Like how important is therapy really in this instance?
Mm. Therapy is very important, and I'll throw something in here. On July 23rd, I am hosting an event at my church, having counselors to
Oh,
come
good,
in,
good.
and they're going to do grief counseling. So we're going to talk about the importance of grief and what it goes through, and the different types of grief, because grief does not only
Amazing.
come through the loss of a loved one to death, but there's loss of a pet or loss of a job,
Yeah,
or, you know, there's experiences that we go through that causes us to grieve. So
yeah,
loss of relationships, okay? They all trigger the same emotion. But therapy is very important. I know growing up, especially in the West Indian culture, it was almost like it was a taboo thing.
mm,
You're going to go talk to people about your business. You're going to go and
mm,
share all your secrets,
mhm.
or you're go. It was looked at as being a bad thing, but therapy is needed.
Yes.
Even in the Bible, they went and they spoke to the elders. They spoke to That's therapy.
Hmm.
When you can speak to someone and offload some of your heavy burdens, and someone who can help shed some light into what you're going through and
Yeah,
help you to get through it. That's important. We
yeah,
can't, there's no man's an island, no man stands alone. We use all these cliches and sayings and old wives' tales, and there's a reality to it.
yes,
We need to be able to share with someone and them to help us dig in some of our inner truths, our hurts, right? To help
yeah.
us get them out. Because when you don't get healing on the inside, it's hard for you to show who you really are on the outside.
That's
Nobody
right.
knows who you are if that hurt is so deep in.
Mm,
It's like an infection,
yes,
right? If you have an infection under your skin and you don't take care of it, it eventually is going to ooze out. It's eventually going to get worse. It's going to cause damage to your body. So just as much as we take care of our physical body, we got to take care of our mental health, our emotions as well.
yeah,
So I believe it is 100% important
yes,
to
100%
go for
important.
therapy.
And
Yeah.
for people that know people, maybe somebody hasn't experienced a loss, but they know somebody who has experienced it or is going through therapy because of it, like you said, a pet or what have you. And by the way, side note, I love the fact that you're doing this at your church, the grief and
Mhm.
talking about it. I absolutely love it. You're like, your church is the first I'm hearing of ever doing it, so thank you
Yeah.
for doing that. But if you
Mhm.
don't know like what to do for somebody who's grieving, honestly, it's the little things that
Mhm.
count. Just call and listen, like just be an ear and a shoulder, helping to cook dinners or helping to anything. If they've got children, just taking the children out for a couple of hours so that they can breathe and have that time to sit in the corner and just cry, because us
Yeah.
as parents, we try our best to be as strong as we can for our kids, you know, and you don't want them to see you in a certain state as much as this is important for them to see it because they need to understand it's you know, a way of life that happens, but you just don't
Yeah.
necessarily want them to see you to that extreme. But definitely be that shoulder and that ear for that person that you know that's going through all of this type of stuff, you know, and give them that relief, and you know, don't give them any negative talk. Don't
Yeah.
give them any negative talk, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
just sorry, you were gonna say?
No, I was saying yes, I agree
Oh,
with you
okay.
a hundred
Yeah,
percent.
yeah,
Not
no,
to
for
give
sure.
them negative talk.
No,
Right.
yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
just leave that out. Like nobody needs to hear any negative. Just leave that out. And you know, in the chat though, there is a question, and I think it was about something that we were talking about a little bit earlier. It says, so as long as the company has business in that location, if they don't want, if they don't, what happens to the money invested in the contract? Okay, so I think that has to do with what we were talking about. If you relocate to a different city,
Mm-hmm.
and you can switch it from city to city. So from, you know, Toronto, Ottawa, Alberta, you can, as long as the company has different places there. But in this case, I guess what happens
So
if the company is no longer in business? What happens to your investment and the contract?
so I think they're saying if let's say they go to, let's say in Ottawa again, if there's no location in Ottawa, I think that's what they're saying, then what happens? Well, your money is still there. What happens in most cases I've found, people have paid off their property, and then they sell it and recoup their money. So
Okay.
basically, that's what they do. So they sell their property
Okay.
and then take whatever they sell that property for and use it to buy wherever they want to,
Okay, so you can
right?
sell it. That's good.
Because they own, yeah, they can
Okay,
sell
that's
it, yeah.
really good.
But
That's
you have to pay for it in full, and
yeah.
it's your responsibility. You sell it, yeah,
Okay. Okay,
yeah.
that's really good to
So
know.
I hope that answers their question. Hmm.
Yes. It is also a statement that says children need the liberty to talk to others as well. Yes, they do. If they've lost somebody that's
Oh,
close with them
definitely.
or what have you, or even seeing their parent go through it, right? That loved one that's close to them and how
Hmm.
they're acting. Maybe they might get depressed. Maybe there's different like things that they go through, different moods and all this stuff, right? It's important for them to
Yeah,
speak to somebody too because they go through it just as much
yeah.
as others do. So what a great
Hmm.
conversation tonight. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat um, as we go along here. Is there any other amazing nuggets that you would like to say this evening, Michelle?
Yeah, I would like to also add, when you are supporting people who are grieving, be present with them.
Hmm.
Don't be, on your phone or doing it while there's a TV show on. Like, be present for them, and listen carefully to what they're saying, because you don't want them to harm themselves, or
Yeah.
you don't want them to get into a state of deep depression, or that they turn to uh, alcohol or drugs or anything to soothe the pain. You
Hmm.
want to be able to hear them clearly as to what they're going through, right? So I think that's very important, that when we're supporting them, because remember, especially when there's couples who have lost their spouse, he may have been the one to take out the garbage all the
Yeah.
time, and now
Yeah.
you're the one that has to take it out, and you're not used to this new routine that you have to take on. Maybe he's the one that paid all the bills and you didn't pay all the bills, or she paid all the bills and he didn't. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of changes that happens. So you want to be able to really help and support them, because they're going to be in their head a lot about what has happened.
Hmm.
So especially if you're part of a church, you know, whatever department you have, it is very important to have that support group to rally around them and help them go through their transition. And like you said, I do believe it's very important in churches. I mean, in the past couple of years, we've experienced so much grief.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to do this grief session, and I'm just really happy for the therapists that are coming in to do it. We're going
Amazing.
to have a great open forum conversation, and people can meet with them, individually. We're also going to do a celebration, concert. I'm working on that, just to have people come in and just have a good night, whether they had lost somebody or not, whether they're grieving from a lost relationship. One gentleman, he told me his cat died at the same time his grandmother died.
Oh,
So it was hard for him because he's close to his cat, and we
yeah,
don't realize people are close to their pets.
absolutely.
Or something dramatic. Their close friend at a job for many years got laid off, and now they're gone, and your partner at work is gone, but not that they died. Grief again comes in different ways. People out there whose spouses are not well, and
Mm,
your caregivers, your personal caregivers to your spouses, I'm telling you, I understand how you're feeling. It's a loss for us as the children. I lost my dad. He's still alive, but I've lost the dad that I knew,
mm,
around and vibrant and moving, and telling you, make sure you do this, make sure, and he can't do that now. I'm taking care
mm,
of. So it's something that I had to go through. I did grieve. I did, like, why is this happening? And then I got to an acceptance. Okay, this is the path, and now I have to walk with my dad and with my mom.
right.
Now I have to have a different mindset and work along with her to support her, because this has been her love of her life from
Yes.
yay small, and
Oh,
now he's not here in that same way.
yes.
So now I have to transition and be that support to her, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when, we're all going to pass, but when someone passes, then you have to transition again and be support in that realm as well. So we just have to pray and ask God to give us strength and guidance, to help us to say the right things, to be there and to be intuitive, and to just, see them through it. One
Yes.
help one another. We have to help one another.
Yes. 100%. 100%. I agree with you. Absolutely loving this talk tonight. Thank you again so much for being with us this evening. Honestly, just be mindful around people that are around you, whether you know what they're going through or not, is really what I would like to say, because
Yeah,
we all deal with things and have battles that we face, whether we talk about it or not. It could be grief, one of the things that people are not talking about, because they don't know how to talk about it, or maybe they just don't want to talk about it right now, which is fine. It's their prerogative. I can't even speak.
their prerogative. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like, hang on a second, it won't come out. Um,
yeah,
and it's up to them. But we as, humans, we should just honestly be mindful of those around us, and just be loving and caring, and that's it. Just be
yeah,
loving and
yeah.
caring, and
I
that's
love
it.
it. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you again for
Yeah.
being here this
Mhm,
evening. We are going to bring this to a close. Thank you,
mhm.
everybody, so much for joining in. Great conversations, great questions. Thank you so much. Until next time, again, thank you, Michelle. I'll keep an
You're
eye
welcome.
out for you doing that grief thing,
Yes.
and I would love to post it actually. I don't know if are you going to be doing a live at all with that, or is that just at the location
I,
itself?
I I might do a live only for you, Lady J, because you're in Ottawa, and so that I can, so I'll talk to my team and see what they say in regards to doing that. So those who cannot make it there physically can still
And
benefit
tune
from the
in. Okay.
conversation.
Sounds
Okay.
great. Let me know.
Yeah,
Let me know, and then
I
I will
definitely will.
post that.
Definitely will.
That's
And
amazing.
and I want to encourage people to do their pre-planning, because
Yes.
it does alleviate a lot of stress on the family, especially when death does occur. That's just a major weight off your shoulder of having to maneuver all of that along with dealing with your grief. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Put it on your bucket list of things. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
with you. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good
100%.
conversation tonight. Definitely a great
Yes.
conversation, a much needed one. But thank you again for being our guest this evening. I really appreciate it. Hoping to have you back in the near future. But
No problem.
until next time, know that the sky is not your limit and keep your head high, shoulders back. Go get what's yours. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining. Bye.